Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey there, this is James Valvis, and I'm coming at you with a new Freeform. Freeform is the kind of vlog that I just sit here and spout off whatever comes to mind, as if we're just hanging out and talking, except I'm doing all the talking and you're the listener. I wish it wasn't that way. I'd much rather listen than talk, but since I got to be here, I don't mind. I don't mind doing the talking. But hey, if you start your own video journal or your own vlog or your own YouTube channel, I would definitely leave a link in the description, and I would be there. I'm interested in hearing what other people say, especially other poets, but anybody who's paying attention to me, I want to pay attention to them. I have limited amount of time in life, but I like to reward people who are doing what, if they're interested in me, then chances are I'm interested in them. I'm interested in what they're doing. So, as I said, just even if you just have a regular website or whatever, leave a link in the bottom and I'll follow it. I'll see what I can see. And otherwise, as always, thanks for listening. So think about the channel. I always try to start with what's going on with the channel. I bought my camera. I got my camera. Kind of figured out how it works a little bit. I know how to zoom, know how to unzoom, I guess. Zoom, and I'm going to start making videos about my gaming machine. I may even throw my face on here. I'd rather not. There are people who I'd be honest with you, I would rather people not know exactly what I look like at present, because you say things, whatever you say, there are always enemies out there. Like I said, I have my one hate viewer. He comes around, or she comes around and clicks dislike on everything I like, on everything I do here, and anybody that dedicated to hating on me is anyone who stalks me to that degree is a bit touched. They're disturbed, and so I worry about it. I worry about I have a daughter, I have a wife. I worry about these crazy people out there who would just they don't like what you said, and now they're coming after you, and they want to hurt you. They want to hurt your family. They want to throw a brick through your window, whatever it is. I worry about that, and I've worried about it for years. I don't really like being in the public eye. I'm a private person. I enjoy being private. I want to have my own life. It's one of the reasons I've never really pushed too hard for fame as a writer. I could write stuff that would make me more famous. I could do that. I could focus on that. I could put direct laser beam focus on things that would make me more famous in the world. And maybe I would, and maybe I wouldn't. It's hard to know which of those would be. But I've never really gone that direction. I took a mystery writing class, like in the early 2000s, and I thought I'd write mystery novels, and I could write mystery novels. I wrote a perfectly good thriller while I was there, but my desire, I think, stops me. My desire not to be known, not to be famous, and I'm talking even in a minor sense, usually stops me from going and writing more stuff that will make me better known, or even to some degree saying stuff. I just don't. I like my life the way it is. I don't really want it overly blown up. I'd be perfectly happy to go through my life being a complete unknown, like Edgar Allan Poe, and after my death have my work blow up and become very well known. That would be like the happiest result for me, because then I would be able to, the work would get the attention that I would want for it, and I wouldn't, that I would want for me. So that would be the best of both worlds. But I don't know that that's possible. I think one or the other is going to be the case. And right now it's looking like, just the work and me will be unknown forever, which I can live with, to be honest with you. I think I'd rather have it that way. I think I'd rather have it that way than be famous. I have no desire at all to be famous. To have money, to make money from it, yeah, I would like to make money from it. But to be famous, to be known, to be a Stephen King, where you got to surround your house with fences and be constantly on the lookout for crazy people, and to write books about how you're worried about being kidnapped and by crazy fans or whatever. No, I don't want any part of that. Who does? I mean, if you do, there's something wrong with you. Anyway, so I got the camera. I may or may not put my face there. It's just not, it's not something I've decided yet. But the machine will be focused on, and I'll have gaming reviews and gaming videos, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that, because I love video games. I've always loved video games since I was a very young boy. I'm talking very young, like almost so young I can't even remember. I remember playing the first video game when I was with my dad at a bar. And people forget that video games didn't start in arcades. It wasn't like, oh, there's this game Pong, and we're gonna put it in an arcade, and there'll be 30 Pong games, and people come and put quarters in it. That's not what happened. They took these games and they put them in bars. That's where they mostly were, corner stores and bars. At least where I lived, that's where they were. And you had to walk 3 blocks to the corner store to some convenience store where you'd buy milk and bread and other like small things like that, and there would be the Space Invaders in a corner, and there'd be like 3 kids waiting in a line to play this lone Space Invaders. The arcades came later. Arcades were mainly for like pinball machines back then, and to some degree, the basic reward type games, but they were not. Video games didn't get into arcades until later. I remember the first game I played was with my dad in a bar. It was a game called Outlaw, and I believe it's Outlaw. And it's basically just this guy with a gun, and they shoot each other, and Boot Hill, that's the name of it, Boot Hill, and he would point, you'd be able to point his arm, and there'd be this little Conestoga wagon coming up the center of it, and you'd shoot the Conestoga wagon instead of the guy you were shooting at, and if you did shoot him, there'd be a cross there suddenly, and they'd play the dun 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 dun, and that was the whole game. And it was the game itself was just nothing but a black and white, almost a vector type of game, and overlaid, there would be an overlay of color onto that. And so when you emulate these games now, it's usually just the black and white stuff, because you don't have the overlay. Anyway, so I plan on doing that. That's what's going on with the channel. Plus I'll keep doing the opinions, and I'll keep doing the vlogging, and I keep doing the poetry, and I keep doing the short fiction. And the thing is, not a lot of writers could do this. What I'm doing is a little different than other people, because they just can't muster this much material. They would run out of material very quickly. They would, if you had, there are people out there who write, 10 poems a year or whatever, and that, it would take them, 3 or 4 or 5 years just to do the month's worth of material that I put out in July. And I have an almost inexhaustible amount of material. I mean, if you count everything that I've written, with the poetry and the fiction and the novels and the essays and everything else that I've come across and I've done, you're talking about years worth of material. Now, I don't know if I'll drop all of that on YouTube. I have a lot of material that's already published. A lot of that stuff can go on because it's already seen an audience. It can see an audience again. They can find a new medium for that work. But I don't know if I'll drop everything. At some point I might just say, I'm just going to go strictly to commentary, or I'm just going to go strictly to videos, or I'm just going to go strictly to gaming, or who knows what. But right now I just have a lot of material. I can just certainly 2 or 3 years worth of material publishing at the putting stuff on YouTube at the rate that I currently am. That is not inconceivable for me to do that. And certainly if I wanted to just start unloading all the work, if I wanted to just say, I'm just going to keep making this stuff available, I might have to put it behind a paywall, because it seems pretty crazy to like give away all your work. Right now I've given out a lot of material. I've already given out books worth of material on YouTube alone, and to some degree I think people get oversaturated with it. They start to take it for granted. They say to themselves, "Oh well, there's Valvis with another poem. I guess I'll get to maybe tomorrow's, or maybe the day after, or whatever he does then." And they don't pay attention to this one, or they say, but if you make it rarer, then maybe they do pay attention to it. You take it away, and all of a sudden it becomes valuable. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. But you shouldn't think that this will go on forever, nor should you think that this is this is a free ride, because I can take it down at any time. I leave that option open to myself. There's no guarantee that anything I put up will stay up. There's no guarantee that anything in the future is coming forward. I make no promises. I'm doing this at my own expense and at my own amusement. Nobody's a patron of mine, so I don't have to worry about that. Nobody's I get maybe 10, 15, 20 views a video, or a talk like this. So I appreciate every one of you. Don't get me wrong. If you're listening to this, I really appreciate it. Spending the time with me. As I've said before, anybody who spends any time with me is is giving to me the most precious thing they have, which is time in their life. That is something I treasure and something I appreciate to a great deal. I'm not kidding when I thank people for reading every time, or when they're listening, or whatever they're doing with my stuff. That for them to spend time out of their lives, that is a great honor. That is a great privilege. But having said that, and having provided content that I think is valuable and worthwhile, and has a nice, immediate value, I don't feel like I need to leave it up so people can see it again, or nor do I feel that people, I have an obligation to keep going forward doing this. So I leave that open, but I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. But I may, never know. Time is for me is precious. Even though I have, I've set up my life so that I have as much free time as possible, I still have stuff to do. I still am constantly pressed for time. I mean, I even get to play a game today. I'm just constantly working. I worked on my new story for YouTube. I worked on some writing. I worked on some editing. I went for, did the exercising. I made dinner, and a bunch of other stuff. You don't want to hear about it, but a bunch of other stuff takes up time. And so for me to continue doing this, to continue making content like this, I'll have to see some reward in the future for it. Or I'll have to, but I'm not going to make any promises, because ultimately I'm going to decide for myself what is the best way to spend my time for what I want to achieve in life. So there's that. That's the channel update. What else is going on in the world? Still got that Russia probe nonsense going on. Oh God, Russia. All we hear about is Russia. I'm so sick of hearing about Russia. Oh, I can't even turn on the national news anymore, or turn, go to Drudge's website or whatever. It doesn't matter what news source you go to. It's Russia, and it's not like there's news to report. There's nothing new going on. There's nothing. It's just scandal. That's all. They're just doing it to get in your head, to keep it going, because they know if the very minute that they stop talking about it, it disappears, because there's nothing there. There was never anything there, and so it's just a way of agitating you to keep you on the hook. That's what the media does. The media keeps you on the hook. That's their job. That's what they do. It's the worst kind of employment you can imagine, because they are not interested in truth. They're interested in making sure that you come back every time, building up your emotions, getting you agitated enough so that you wake up every day and the first thing you think about is, how are we getting Trump today? Or, how are we getting Obama today? It doesn't matter what politician it is, doesn't matter who it is. They are always keeping you on the hook. That's what they're doing. There's, you don't need a blow-by-blow account of the Russia probe. You don't need it. Not in your life. What the hell you need that for? What are you going to do with that information? What good is it to you? It's going to make your life better. It's gonna make your wife love you more. It's gonna make your, I guess if your wife is crazy, it might. But if my wife doesn't happen to be crazy, so it's not gonna make her love me more. Is it gonna make you a better father to your kids? Is it gonna make you a better man or a better woman? Is it going to, in any way, add to your enlightenment in life? When you die, you're gonna say, man, I never got to do, I never got to see Europe. I never got to see the Parthenon in Greece. But boy, oh boy, I learned a lot of stuff about the Russia probe. I mean, who gives a crap about this shit? It's garbage. Let it go. Let it go from your life. Let it flow. I honestly have not paid attention to this in a long time. And it's not because, look, I thought it was vital to know, I would know it. If I thought it was information worth knowing. If I even thought that it was going to lead anywhere, it was going to lead to his impeachment, or it was going to lead to, us having a new president in some way, but it's just garbage. It's absolutely garbage. The president always calls the media fake news, right? Or the enemy of the people. He says that both, right? You know what? The media is not just fake news. And they're not just the enemy of the people. They're worse than that. They're worse. The media in this country is evil. It is flat out 100% evil. Now, if that pains you to hear that, it makes you step back and say, whoa, what are you saying? You're saying journalists are evil? I'm saying exactly that. I'm saying these people are evil. They're not good people. They do not mean to do you a good turn. They mean to do themselves a good turn. That's it. They're not virtuous. They're not trying to provide you with a good or a service that is of any value. They're not. Look, if you go out in the world and you plop down, $20 for an apple, people would think you ill-used. But if you but you're better off with that apple than you are with a subscription to the the New York Times or the Washington Post. You're far better off with that apple. I mean, you're going to get an apple. You're going to have something you can eat, something you can use in the world. It's going to feed you. It's going to, it's going to get you through the day. It provides some fiber at least. Something. Might be tasty. Hell, a mealy apple. A mealy apple for $20 would be worth more than a newspaper subscription these days. What was it that Mark Twain said? Mark Twain said, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed, and if you do read one, you're misinformed. And that was back in the day when journalists at least were trying to be journalists. You think the people on CNN are really trying to be journalists? You think that's a thing that's happening? When you go to the latest on the Russia probe, dun, 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 and they're not being they're news entertainment. They're not even that. These are the lowest of the low scum. They really are. They're scum. And they want to eat your life. And it doesn't matter if they're on the left or the right or whatever it is. They're not telling you the truth. Fox News is no better. And say, oh, well, the Fox is different. No, they're not. They're corporatists. They are corporatists. It's kind of funny because we talk about the left especially. The left talks about, oh, the corporations are so awful. Oh, the corporations. Oh, the corporate. A corporation it really depends on the corporation. The corporation, oh, McDonald's is evil, Walmart is evil. Well, you go into Walmart, you buy a product, you walk out with the product. That's not too bad. That's kind of a decent service for a corporation to provide. Yeah, maybe they do this or they do that you don't like. They don't treat their employees in the way you think, or they don't unionize and you like unions because they give money to Democrats or whatever it is. But for the most part, the service, it's okay. B minus as a corporation. But but you never hear about the corporate news and how they're corporatists. These are corporations. Their job is the bottom line. That's it. Their job is not about informing anyone. The job is not about. This is why they can support a war going in, and be completely against it going out. Why? Because that's what people want to see. That's what's bringing in the eyes. That's it. They don't care either way. You think Bezos bought the Washington Post so that he could be like, I'd like to serve the public and give them honest and fair reporting about this Donald Trump guy who happens to be, talking about breaking up my monopoly. And no. Good God Almighty. They're not. They are not your friend. They are evil. They don't have to be evil. There's nothing about journalism itself that's evil. But they're not doing journalism. They stopped doing journalism a long time ago. I noticed it years and years ago. I noticed it when I was a Democrat. My good God, these people are lying all over the place. I remember one time, I think it was Dan Rather, got into it with George H.W. Bush. I remember I was a Democrat back then. I voted for Dukakis. I really, really wanted Dukakis to win. And, he was giving an interview with Dan Rather, and Dan Rather just started, browbeating him. And I was thinking he would never, ever talk to, this is the Vice President of the United States, he would never talk to a Democrat like this, never. They've been doing this forever. Forever and ever and ever. They've been political partisans. And they slant and bias the news. And sometimes it helps Democrats, but a lot of times it doesn't. A lot of times, Democrats can't get out from under it because it turns so many people off because they're such liars and they're such scum. Jim Acosta is a piece of garbage. This is not a good guy. This is not somebody who cares about the world. He cares about himself, and that's it. He doesn't care about the world. He cares about his career. These are career corporatist people. They do and say what they think will get them higher up in the food chain. Just that simple. That's why they can't make an argument. They can't argue a point, ever. That's why they have to have... You look at The View, right? Now, that's not exactly journalism. I don't know what you call it, but it's not journalism. But it acts as a kind of a journalistic panel, right? Notice that they always have to outnumber the conservative. This is always the case. There is almost never a time, you're almost nowhere on TV. I think maybe the Fox is 5 or a couple, maybe just a couple of stuff on Fox. You never ever see the progressive outnumbered. You look at Real Time for Bill Maher, it is always 4-1 against. Oh, we're even-handed. Look, we brought in this conservative, but the whole panel, rest of the panel, the 5 other people there, the 4 or 5 other people, including the host, and all of the audience are against that one conservative speaker every single time. That's not fair. It's not a fair fight. And here's the funny part: the conservative usually holds up pretty well. You bring Jordan Peterson on there, he doesn't look bad. You bring Ben Shapiro on there, he doesn't look bad. I'm not a big Ben Shapiro fan, but at least he holds his own. Bring Ann Coulter on there, and she freaking owns the place. And I'm not an Ann Coulter fan at all. I think Ann Coulter lies a lot. I don't trust half of what she says. But it doesn't change the fact that at least she's trying to make arguments. They're not always good arguments, and sometimes she's lying, but she's making arguments. She's not just appealing to emotion. In every way, we see that a service like this, a service that relies not on you getting a product, or a service where you can see discernible results. So an example of that would be like you bring your car to a mechanic, he fixed the car. Now you can drive the car away. Okay? Or you pay somebody to clean your rugs, and the guy comes and he runs his shampooer through your rugs, and you look at your rug and you say, that's a clean rug now, thank you. Give the guy the money, he goes off. That's a service that you can judge what's going on. Whenever you have a service that you can't immediately judge the value of the service that you're getting, or the good that you're getting, in this case the news, you should really question that. Because it's very, very easy to just sell people what they want to hear. It's very easy to give people what they want rather than what is a good job. If you come in, if a person came in and said they want to clean your rug, clean my rugs, and the person comes in and says, well, I don't have any material, I don't have anything, I don't have a shampooer, I don't have any shampoo, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this blindfold on you, and after this blindfold is on you, you will not be able to see any more dirty rugs. Well, in a way, it's true. Now you don't have dirty rugs because you can't see them. Well, actually, you do have dirty rugs, but you can't see them anymore. That's what the news media does in this country, and maybe across the entire Western world now. I mean, Britain's probably worse than we are. So, whenever you have something like that, whenever you have, and I'll tell you the trades in which this happens. It happens in media, it happens in the arts, and it happens in academia. Those are the things where you can say, I'm not entirely sure the benefit that I got out of consuming your service. Because you just, you can't really know that ahead of time. You have to go through, it's especially problematic in academia, because you usually, at least with the news, you have some ability to counter check it. So you check this news source, and you check that news source, and you check that news source. Now, most people don't do that. They only have one news source that they go to, and that's their news source. That's it. And for some reason, people on the left think that the Washington Post can be that kind of news source for them. They read the Washington Post or the New York Times, and they read this stuff, and they think, well, this is a reliable news source. This is a real newspaper. Therefore, what they say is fact. Of course, it's not. It's not. These are clowns. These are jokers. They don't believe in the truth. They said all through the lead up to the Iraq War that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They said all through that. They drumbeat for that war like crazy. I don't know if people remember that. Absolutely drumbeat for it. Look who owns these things. They're not owned by, they're not owned by people who really care. They're owned by corporations and by business people with agendas. Look at what happened to the Washington Post after Bezos took over. Even the conservatives on the Washington Post became screaming liberals. Look at Jennifer Rubin, who was quote unquote the conservative opinion writer for the Washington Post. She is such a never Trumper. She actually came out and said, you have to stop Donald Trump before he ends abortion. That is your conservative commentator for the Washington Post. that you have to stop Kavanaugh before he ends abortion. That's not conservative. Who would believe that that is a conservative viewpoint? And yet this person passed herself off as conservative for a generation. And then, the minute he, and the reason she flipped on that, the reason she didn't just pretend to be, oh well, we have to stand behind, Mitt Romney and John McCain and these other conservatives who weren't conservative squat. They weren't conservative squat. The reason they did that is it's really very simple. It's because they knew that things would just kind of keep flowing toward the left, and they can offer up a token resistance to it. And then Donald Trump came along and said, no, we're going to stop it right here. we're going to halt this progressive march. And boy, did they lose they took off all their masks. All the conservative newspapers took off their masks and endorsed Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, she is one of the worst, absolute worst people a conservative could have ever supported. Ever. And they did it because they're liars. They're all liars. Jennifer Rubin knows that Bezos is not going to deal with a real conservative on their opinion page. She has to be a never Trumper. Otherwise, she loses her 6-figure, if not 7-figure job. These people are corporatists. They do it for the money. They're in it for the money. That's all they do. And so the news media is corrupt. And one day I'll just do a straight thing on how you can spot bias. It's really easy once you know what they're doing, because it's not just them lying. I said Trump lied. Oh, Trump's a liar, and he's lied 7.6 times a day. And you find out like what is the lie, and it's like something that they can't verify. Like Trump said that the Queen made him wait 15 minutes, and like, we have video of the Queen waiting for him. Well, it might have been another time that he was waiting for the Queen. It didn't have to be that particular time. And so they're they do things like that, and then they call that a lie. But is it a lie that affects me? Do I care who waited for the Queen? Let the Queen wait for the president. Who the hell's the Queen? Who gives a shit about the Queen? I'm an American. I don't give a crap about the Queen. The Queen's nobody. She's somebody who was freaking born, and they put a crown on her head, and she walked around with a freaking, on a throne or whatever, her whole life. Who is she? What has she ever done? I don't give a crap about her. Long live the Queen. She lived long enough. Go away now. You're a relic of another time. Stop it. The only thing the Queen has done her whole entire life is give up more and more power, which is good. But it's not, she's basically done it to save the anachronism of royalty, of the idea of royalty. Who is she? Who are the royals? Who gives a crap about these people? What have they done? I mean, I kind of fond of Harry. He seems like a decent guy. He went and served in his military. He just lived a kind of a normal life. Seems all right. But he's, I used to at least think somewhat of him when he just dissed on Trump. And I think, you don't disrespect my president. He represents the will of the people, the American people. You crap on him, you crap on all of us. Even the people who didn't vote for him, you crap on them too. Not my president. Okay. Not my queen. The hell with your queen. Screw your queen. Your old ass, ugly ass queen. Get rid of her. Grow up already. Jesus Christmas. Freaking, you got this ancient, anachronistic idiocy called royalty, and you humor these people, and you give them all kinds of attention and love and affection. Why? God. It's horrible. I don't get it. I will never get it. I'll never get Americans' infatuation with these people either. I don't get it. We fought a war to get rid of royalty. George Washington, thank God, decided we were not going to be a royal people. That's why I also don't like when, family members run for president. No more family members. That's it. No Michelle Obama. No Ivanka Trump. Certainly no more Clintons. No more Bushes. God, no more Bushes. None of them. We're Americans. Stop believing in royalty. There's no such thing as royalty. Nobody's born with noble blood and other people with ignoble blood. It's just garbage. You deserve the respect that you earn in this life, period. That's it. You don't deserve more, you don't deserve less. You deserve the respect you earn in this life. You're born with no respect, and you build up respect over time based on what you do. That's it. When you have, you're born with certain human rights and certain human decency, that kind of respect. But as far as beyond that respect, where somebody's bowing to you, bowing to like a 6-year-old kid, yeah, you'll see me bow to some 6-year-old kid like never. put me in front of a royal, a 6-year-old prince or something like that, and tell me to bow to him. I'll put him over my knee first. Bow to some kid. Get out of here. Do something. Go out there and do something. Write a great poem. Write a great song. Cure cancer. Do something. Cure cancer, I'll bow to you. I'll bow to you twice. I'll get on my knees and kiss your feet. You cure cancer. Cure colon cancer. Do that. Don't tell me you were born to the right womb. I don't give a crap about that at all. So anyway, besides the media, you got the arts. And the arts, the arts are so ephemeral and so subjective that you can just, it's not even what the art is anymore. It's just how critics feel about it at that particular moment, based on whether anybody respects it or not. So today they respect this kind of modern art, and tomorrow that kind of modern art, and depending on how people are feeling about Rothko or Jackson Pollock or whatever, then that determines the extent of the genius involved in it. But it's garbage. It's garbage. There is such a thing as objective beauty. Okay? When you look at a Vermeer, you are not deceived by its greatness. It is great self-evidently. You look at it and it takes your breath away. The eyes alone take your breath away. Look at the eyes of any Vermeer painting, and it will blow your mind. Absolutely blow your mind. One painting, just the eyes of any Vermeer painting is better than the entire wing of the modern poetry. There's that much genius in it. You look at Sistine Chapel, and you go in there and you're in awe. That is great art. It's objective. It lifts the soul. You can tell it. You can tell when you're in the presence of great art. You can. Even somebody who's not really trained can tell. It's not hard. You don't need a master's degree or a PhD to be moved by great art, or not moved by just schlock. I mean, there are times when people can be deceived, but most of the time, we know that it's not good, because there's no joy in it. There's no greatness in it. It doesn't move you emotionally. You see a bunch of, squiggly lines, and you look at it and you go, squiggly lines. Yeah, I drew them when I was 6. Squiggly lines. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Artist. I'm glad that, in this great city, in this great museum, they took out wall space for your squiggly lines. That's just wonderful. Thanks, Mr. Warhol, for your freaking cans of Campbell soup. I could have saw that at the grocery store, but instead I'm seeing it here. Thank you, Mr. Warhol. You're brilliant. This is garbage. It's not good. It's not good art. I used to be deceived by this as well, But it's just, it's not beautiful. It's just not. Ugliness, you can't have ugly art. If it's ugly, it's not art. It's just that simple. Anything, I've had friends who have tried to pass this off with me, that, you can have art that's ugly. No, you can't. Even when you have something that's really gory or something, if something is macabre, it's still got to be beautiful. An Edgar Allan Poe story is macabre, but it's still beautifully written. Read The Fall of the House of Usher, especially read the first 3 or 4 paragraphs of The Fall of the House of Usher, and look at just how he handles the language, the D's that he used over and over again, the alliteration within the D's. That is absolutely astounding. It's astounding craftsmanship and art in there. And it's an ugly story, yeah, as far as its content and as far as its macabre nature, but it is absolutely stunningly well crafted. You don't see that with a Rothko. These are lines. It's just it's a theory. It's a theory. It's ugly. So, an artist try to convince you that ugliness is art when it's not. So again, you have a product that, where they've confused people. They've managed to confuse people and say that, your instincts, the thing that you know to be true, is not true. That is always at the heart of every lie. At the heart of every lie, most times in a lie, and sometimes people are genuinely duped, but for the most part, people know something's a lie, but they want to convince themselves it's the truth. Like, people know the Russia probe is garbage. They know that. Even radical Trump-hating people, they know it's garbage. Deep down in their soul, they know nothing's coming of that. And if something does come out of it, it'd be wrong. If they get an obstruction charge or something like that, it would just be bull. They work the legal system enough that they could get this innocent guy impeached over something he never did. That's it. It's the same with art. When you look at a picture of modern art that it's not good. When you read a poem that's nothing but word soup and gibberish, it's not good. That. It's the Emperor's New Clothes thing. The child knows it. I was in a museum once. I was in the Art Institute in Chicago, and I was in the modern art wing. God knows why. And some probably see Picasso, because I think Picasso is a rare exception of a genius who worked outside of typical standards of beauty. And this girl passed this painting. I don't know what painting it was, but basically it was like a painting. It didn't even have any paint. It had like string attached to it or something, and there was like a hanger on it or something. It was just some mixed media garbage like that. And she went by it and she's like, "That's not art." And she walked away. She's like, "This is stupid." And she was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, but she could see it. This is like the girl in the Emperor's New Clothes, or the boy, or whatever it was, the little child, who said, "The Emperor's naked." They know. You know when this stuff is garbage. All this poetry you see everywhere, academics have convinced, and I'll get to them in a minute, academics have convinced themselves that this is good art. It's not good art. I'm sorry, it's not. Good art when you're in the presence of it. You feel it. You feel it in your gut. You feel like you've been kicked in the gut. You know it. One of the great things about not going to college, not being formally educated, is that nobody ever told me what art should be. And so I learned art by reading it. I learned art by experiencing it. When I read a Soroyan story, or I read Kerouac, or I read Carver, or I read Bukowski, or I read Tolstoy, or I read Chekhov, or whoever I was reading, I knew if I was in the presence of it because I felt it. If I didn't feel it, I knew it was just, it was theory. Even when I think that there's craftsmanship behind a theory, I don't think it's much. Like Ulysses by James Joyce. I think it's a great craftsmanship there. And I also think it's bad art. Sometimes I think things are not art. They're just so bad, they're not even art. I think James Joyce is just bad art. Still art, but it's bad art. That brings me to academia. I always talk about things being the good, the true, and the beautiful. And those are all important. They are all important. You can judge almost everything and its worth by whether it fits into one of those things and where it fits on the scale of those things. So, a good thing is something that creates great value in your life and is moral and upright and just. And a beautiful thing is self-evident, has beauty. It lifts you. It makes you feel better about yourself and the world. And truth is true. It's not a lie. It's not an imposter. You have two kinds of lies. One is the outright falsehood, which is actually pretty uncommon. It's not totally uncommon. It's very common in general, but it's less common than the imposter, the lie that's pretending to be the truth. It's easier to get over on people. Yeah, teachers, teachers in a modern sense they're just, most of the time, I don't know that they're doing any good. I think of Socrates, right? Socrates was basically a teacher, and they killed him. They killed him unjustly, in my opinion. And the main charge against him was corrupting the values of the youth. So this problem of lying to people as a teacher goes way back. It's the pre-Socratics. It goes before Socrates. Socrates was probably the first great thinker in the world, and I think he was unjustly accused of polluting the morals and values of young people. But it doesn't change the fact that somebody got wind of the idea that these people could go around and corrupt the values and morals of people. That charge existed for a reason. It's not a charge that you hear of very often anymore, but it doesn't mean that there aren't academics out there, and millions of them. I think it may well be millions of them. It's many of them, and tens of thousands of them in this country, who are absolutely corrupting the morals and values of people, men and women, boys and girls. And they're doing it They are doing it for self-serving and ideological reasons. I don't know what you can possibly do about that. When I'm sitting here telling you this, I'm telling you the truth. But a lot of times people are not telling you the truth. They're telling you two kinds of things. Either they're telling you a lie because they are fervently trying to get you to believe a falsehood, or they are telling you a lie because they are too cowardly to tell you the truth. Either way, it doesn't really matter which one is which. The end result is the same. I mean, I've had to correct my daughter's thinking 1,000 times. She comes home with ideas from school that are just not so. Just not so. And I had to correct her, or I had to put the emphasis back on something that's true. And there's lots of ways to deceive people. So this is already running long. I'm already at the 45-minute mark or thereabouts. And but I do want to, tie what I'm talking about here into Christianity a little bit. And the reason I want to do that is because it is in Christian thought that you get this idea of truth and beauty and goodness all being connected. They are all connected, and without one, you don't have the other. And without the other, you don't have the next thing. And without the next thing, you don't have any of them. If you don't have truth, you don't have beauty. If you don't have beauty, you don't have goodness. If you don't have goodness, you don't have truth. And on and on. And it goes around in a circle like that. Now, a lot of people balk up and run up against that. They've had problems with this idea for a long time. That truth and beauty, for instance, are related. Are you saying that a young, beautiful girl is more honest than a old, haggardly, nasty-looking, crusty old black guy in some way? No, I'm not saying that at all. That's not what it means. What it means is that the idea that is true is beautiful. The idea itself is beautiful. When you say, when you look at two people who are in love, right? That's beautiful. When you look at two people who hate each other, that's ugly. Now, why is that? Because one is good and the other is not good. When you say, when I come out and say to you that, all black people are criminals, is that beautiful? Do you find that beautiful? Do you find that good? Well, why don't you find it good and beautiful? Because it's not true. That's why. You know that it's a lie. You know it's a deception. And therefore it lacks goodness and it lacks beauty. Only in Christianity do you find, I often say that Christianity, it was a very selfish religion because it sucked up all the truth and didn't leave anything for anybody else. It didn't leave anything for the Buddhists, and didn't leave anything for the Muslims. It didn't leave anything for the Jews. It didn't leave, I'm kind of teasing a little bit, but it's so true. All of its deepest theological implications, that you either agree with Christianity, and sometimes Buddhists do, sometimes Muslims do, sometimes Jews do. Most times they do. There's more in common than there is that separates them. But that's true with atheism too. So if a person's atheist, they can believe in 99% of Christianity and somehow think that they can throw out God in the process. Let me tell you, you can't do that, by the way. Let me tell you that there is no such. Nietzsche understood that if you throw out God, you throw out all the rest of it as well. It's all gone. That's why I often call him the last honest atheist, because once you get rid of God, all the philosophical underpinnings of God, all the philosophical manifestations that are derived from that premise disappear. And so if you don't have God, you have no objective truth. It descends into moral relativism. If you don't have God, then you have no course of progress for humanity. It descends into chaos. These are the direct implications. If you have no God, you have no purpose for man. It disappears. When I say that God underpins all of Western culture's ideas and values, and without God, it all goes away. All of it, it just collapses. There's no standing for it at all. There's none. You say, you go say, and take murder. Why is murder wrong? Why? Well, because you're killing somebody. No, it's not a reason. Okay, well, because we have evolved to believe that murder is wrong. Oh, so what do I care? What do I care about evolution? I don't care about that. I want to murder somebody. What does it matter to me about evolution? Evolution is not an imposition on my desires. People murdered. Besides, people murdered for many, many millennia, and all they did was prosper for it. They murdered and raped, and the women they raped had their babies, and and their babies grew up, and they had babies, and they lived on. So no, that doesn't work. The only way you can say that murder is wrong, the only way, is if there is a lawgiver whose authority is inviolate. You can't question it. There is no source for the law deeper than this being. That's it. Now, if you want to say there's no God, then fine. That means there's, you can have that idea. But what you can't have is both ideas. You can't have no God, and yet we must follow Christian virtue. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. It's like saying we're not going to have any, we're not going to have any kind of, goal lines or stadium or anything like that, and yet we're going to play football. Well, somebody gets the ball and they run whatever way they want. There's no goals. I mean, C.S. Lewis says that progress depends entirely on there being a God, because otherwise you don't know which way to progress. There's no standard in which to progress to. You say it's that way, I say it's this way, and now we're at loggerheads. But we know from Christianity what is the way toward progress. We know that because it's the good and the true and the beautiful. We know that. It has to fit all three of those. And so when you see ugly ass art, that's not good. That's not true. And when you see a media that lies to you repeatedly and deceives you, that's not good and it's not beautiful. And when you have academics who are corrupt in their morals and teach those morals, Randa Gerard teaching racism, that's not true, nor is it beautiful. It's not progress either. It's a regression. That's why we call it the regressive left, because it's a regression away from the good and the true and the beautiful. Nope. This has gone kind of long. I probably wanted to say other things, but I guess I got on the true and the good and the beautiful there. But I do hope that you'll consider these things. And especially the people who tend to disagree with me, politically or socially or what, or even artistically. I think that you really need to take a second look. And I don't care if you're 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. You need to take a second look at some of the things that have been that you believed from the start, because they're not holding up very well. I think you can see that in the culture. There's a reason why newspapers and news medias are folding faster than you can think. It's not just technology. They've been in decline for a long time, really since the 40s and the 50s and the Daily Planet. They've been declining a long time. And academia, has been built up and bulked up by this ridiculous massive giveaway, first with the GI Bill, and then ultimately with these student loans, and the government has just completely given these people like a free ride. They can do whatever they want, and just they can raise prices to whatever degree they want, and that's not going to last. It's not going to last. There are going to be fewer and fewer people who are going to say, I'm not paying that kind of money for an education. Or if I do pay it, I'll go to some state college, because it's just as good as Harvard. I mean, Harvard's garbage anyway now. Columbia's garbage. You're not getting. The only reason now to go to Harvard or Columbia is not for an education. You don't have a better education than Eastern Washington University or something. It doesn't really exist, or for that matter, your internet. No, the reason to go to Harvard and Columbia is to say that you went to Harvard and Columbia. That's the only thing they got. They got a name brand. That's it. And once they lose that, once that goes away, they're done. As far as the arts go, well, we've gone into that quite a bit. An art that does not treasure above all else the true and the good and the beautiful will fall to the wayside, because people don't, in large enough numbers, want to be lied to. They don't want to feel bad. about life and the universe. They don't care to see ugliness in the sense that, you get teenagers, you get some teenagers who fall into this idea, because here's the thing about lies, and here's the thing about evil, and I guess I'll close with this, and here's the thing about the ugly. They're easy. This is why you have so many people who fall into the trap of worshiping this garbage. I know I did when I was early in my career. I started, saying horrible things about my country, and I started doing it, and I knew, and deep down I knew why I was doing it. Because A, that's what people wanted to hear, and B, because it was easy. It was cheap. Anybody could do it. Anybody could do that. It was hard to create a poem that made people go, wow. It was hard to make them feel something. It was hard to make them to write something that was beautiful and true and good and actually original. Not this fake originality where you're just tossing words together and, and talking nonsense. Writing like Ruth Stone or something where you're what the hell did you just say? I don't know. I'll read it 6 more times. Still don't get it. It's like, that's a kind of dishonesty too, where you're hiding too far away just so you can seem more profound. It's a kind of dishonesty. Any kind of pretension is dishonest. Any kind of falseness is dishonest. And so that kind of garbage is also dishonest. And so within these realms, in the media and academia and the arts, yeah, you should be wary if the person who is doing it isn't trying his best to get to the true and the good and the beautiful. And I emphasize that last one. I emphasize the beautiful. Because we live in a time where people, because beautiful is hard, they think therefore it is somehow undemocratic. If you advocate for the beautiful, that means you hate ugly people or misshapen people or whatever. But that's not true. That's not true. Beautiful is hard, but it's not. But that's what we all long for. We all long for beauty. We don't look at the sky and see some industrial smog and think, wow, what a sight. When we see a beautiful sunset, that's when we think, what a beautiful sight. We all long for beauty, and we crave it. I was just in a discussion with my friend Troy, and he says that that we crave art, but that's not true. Art is not the thing that we crave. What we crave is beauty. What we crave is the truth. What we crave is goodness. And where is that most seen in life? Well, I say it's most seen in the person of Jesus Christ. But after that, we see it in the human baby, in the child. There is complete truth, complete goodness, and complete beauty. If you ever want to know what great art is, look at a baby. And then ask yourself, is your journalism, is your art, and is your teaching measuring up to that? Anyway, that's the end of this discussion. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this talk. As always, I thank you for listening. It's gone on for an hour, and that's a mighty long time for you to spend your day on me, little old me. But I do appreciate it, as always. And as always, God bless you.